Hey guys, welcome. I'm sorry my voice is kind of going out. I'm going to do the best I can today. So today is Wednesday. The date is October 14th. So today the objective is to list and describe common autotrophs that may be found in particular aquatic ecosystems. So you're going to complete pages 3 to 5 in your notes, and you're going to complete the major phyla coloring sheet. If you open up the folder in Schoology, you've got the PowerPoint here. You've got the organization of the animal kingdom. That is the phylum coloring that you need to do. If you need a copy of the notes, they are under yesterday's date. So if you need to pull those notes up, they're under yesterday's date. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will start talking about the different phylums and the different protists. So there's 3 domains. Yesterday we talked about kingdoms, we talked about classification, we talked about how they were kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So above kingdoms, we now use a system that has 3 domains. There's domain bacteria, domain archaea, and domain eukaryota. So archaea are bacteria that are halophiles. So those are bacteria that are going to live in extreme conditions. They're going to live in hydrothermal vents. They're going to live in volcanoes. They're going to live in the Arctic. They're going to live in conditions that aren't usually conducive to life. Domain bacteria is where we're going to start today. So domain bacteria is the simplest, most primitive form of life, and there are thousands of different bacteria species. But all bacteria are microscopic, meaning we can't see a bacteria with our naked eye. They're rod-shaped. They have a cell wall made of a substance called peptidoglycan. That's extremely important. That's what actually makes them a bacteria, is that wall made of peptidoglycan. It's different from an animal cell and a plant cell. And they are the smallest living creatures on Earth. So heterotrophic bacteria are bacteria that eat or must consume something else for their food. So there's bacteria that eat decay. So they break down waste products. They're called decomposers. These are going to be a lot of your nitrogen-fixing bacteria, a lot of your bacteria that live in soils. Heterotrophic are everywhere under the sea. They're mostly found in the bottom sediments, and they live off of dead and decaying organisms in the bottom of the ocean. And without heterotrophic bacteria, we would not have a food web. We have to have these bacteria present in order for the food web in the ocean to exist. Autotrophic bacteria are bacteria that make their own food. So they can be photosynthetic, meaning that they rely on the sun. They go through photosynthesis. Or they can be chemosynthetic. Those bacteria that live on hydrothermal vents are all chemosynthetic. They live off of methane or another gas coming up from the earth, ammonia, and they convert that into food. So they're living off of those substances. The bacteria that we need to know about mostly is going to be cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria, another name for it is blue-green algae, because when you look at it, it has this pretty blue-green color. It is technically not algae at all. It's photosynthetic. Phycocyanin is the pigment in it that is blue that absorbs the sunlight. So it does not have chloroplasts. So since it doesn't have chloroplasts, that's why it's not green. If it had chloroplast and chlorophyll, it would be green and be photosynthetic. But it's not. Cyanobacteria were the very first organism on the earth after the Big Bang. They believe this is the very first living thing that spontaneously evolved from nothing. They can tolerate a wide salinity range and a wide temperature range. They're pretty much found worldwide in all environments. If you have trouble remembering this, the word cyano means blue. If you get out a pack of Crayola colors or colored pencils, you'll see that cyan is a shade of blue. So phycocyanin and cyanobacteria are blue-green. That's the only bacteria we're going to talk about, actually. So now you can go to the next page of your notes, and we're going to go into the domain Eukarya. So all of these organisms are eukaryotes, meaning that they have a nucleus inside their cell. And we're going to start off with kingdom Plantae. There's 5 different kingdoms. There's plants, animals, protists, bacteria, and fungi. We are going to start with the plant kingdom. So on domain Eukarya, kingdom Plantae, seagrasses are flowering plants beneath the sea. and they have small flowers, but there's no need for insects to pollinate these plants. Their pollen is carried by the water currents. They have root-like horizontal stems that connect them, and they're most commonly found in tropical waters. They're going to need to be found in water that has a very low turbidity and is very close to the surface because they're going to need sunlight in order to live. Typically, you're only going to find that in tropical environments. Everywhere else, it's going to be too deep. There's not going to be enough sunlight for that plant to live. Salt marsh grasses. Another name for these are cord grasses. If you look at sorry, you can't see that. If you look at the individual plant, you can see how it's round, almost like a cord would be. These aren't really marine. These live on land, but they do tolerate water. This is what we call marsh, in a salt marsh. If you've ever heard of marsh grass, this is marsh grass. It occurs in soft bottom coastal regions. It's not dominant to any area that has a rocky bottom. However, there are invasive species of cord grasses that have invaded the west coast in the California and Oregon, Washington area that are starting to take over those rocky shores there. We're doing the best we can to eliminate it, but it is a concern. The last thing we're going to talk about in Kingdom Plantae are mangroves. If you had me last 9 weeks, you should know all about mangroves. We did a web quest with them. Mangroves are land plants. So again, they're not really marine either. They're land plants. But they do live in salt water and they tolerate salt. They have a special system that locks the salt out. And they have osmoregulators to regulate the water that comes in. They flourish on muddy or sandy shores protected from waves. There's over 80 unrelated species of mangroves or land plants that tolerate salt. They can't live anywhere it freezes. So anywhere it freezes, these mangroves are replaced by marshes and marsh grasses. And an example would be the red mangrove, or Rhizophora mangle. And this is what a mangrove looks like. Moving on from plants, we're going to talk about domain Eukarya kingdom fungi. So on land, fungi would be mushrooms. On the water, we're going to talk about kingdom fungi. They're eukaryotic, meaning they have a nucleus in their cell. They're plant-like. They lack chlorophyll. They don't go through photosynthesis. They're decomposers. They're actually heterotrophs. They don't make their own food. They consume outside food. They consume dead and decaying matter in order to grow. But they do look like a plant. A lot of them are considered plants. Most of you look at a mushroom and think of a plant. There's over 500 different species of fungi in the ocean. That's a lot to get into. We don't have much time. So in general, you need to know that fungi are eukaryotic, that fungi are plant-like, that they decompose, so they're not autotrophs, they're heterotrophs. And a great example is lichen. So this is lichen growing up the side of a tree. Here we've got another type of lichen growing on a tree. All right, the last thing you need to do today is the organization of the animal kingdom coloring. So it's 2 pages. If you download it, it looks something like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the hang of this webcam. If you download it, it looks something like this. All right, now it can blow me up. So here it is. It's got a reading over here. You're going to read this and follow the directions. It's going to give you different colors to color these different phylas. And every time it talks about a phyla, so it'll say phylum Protozoa, and it talks about phylum Protozoa, you're going to color the name Protozoa. You're going to color how much of the total animal life on Earth is made up of protozoas. And then you're going to color chunk A. There's 50,000 different species of protozoas, and you're going to color that orange to match. After that, you're going to go on to phylum Porifera. So starting tomorrow, we're going to get into the different phylums. So today we talked about the different kingdoms. Tomorrow we're going to move into kingdom Animalia. And we're going to start breaking down all of these different animals. So we're going to start with Protists, and we're going to move on, and we're going to break down all of the different kingdoms and phylums. So go ahead and color this in order to get ready for tomorrow and answer your exit ticket. And that is all I have for you today. Have a great day.